Did you know that there was a disciple of Jesus who was not killed like the others who were killed in several terrible ways? But this was not because attempts were not made on his life, because they tried and tried, but he seemed to survive them all. Although he was one of the disciples who had a more personal relationship with Jesus Christ, this didn't make his life any easier. The Romans and people fighting against the gospel of Christ tried to kill him in gruesome ways, but he miraculously survived all of them. Therefore, he lived to write two of the most important books of the New Testament, the books of John and Revelation. This man's name is John the Beloved, or John the Revelator, because of the great book of Revelation which he penned down from Jesus. But his life was not all rosy. Although Jesus Christ loved him, he still faced different challenges and obstacles, but he overcame through faith in Jesus. Therefore, in this video, we are going to look into the life of John the Revelator, how the Romans tried to kill him. On the other hand, we will talk about the books which he wrote and their importance, and what the last book which Jesus gave to him means for us today. Finally, we will see the importance of staying strong, even in adversity and the trials of life. So please stay till the end to get the full story of the man who could not be killed. John was more than just one of Jesus' 12 disciples. He was very close to Jesus, a part of Jesus' inner circle, if you like, alongside his brother James and Peter. John, along with these two other disciples, witnessed miracles that others didn't. They were there when Jesus raised Jairus' daughter in Mark chapter 5, verse 37. They stood with Jesus Christ during his transfiguration in Matthew chapter 17, verse 1 to 2. And John was known as the disciple whom Jesus loved. But John wasn't always the disciple of love. He started as a fisherman. He and his brother James even earned the nickname Sons of Thunder, as seen in Mark 3, verse 17. Even though we don't know why they were called the Sons of Thunder, we can see from the Bible in one occasion that they are both fiery and passionate men. There is an illustrative event that shows us that John really did have resounding qualities. Jesus and his disciples were traveling through Samaria on their way to Jerusalem when they ran into trouble. Jesus tried to find an overnight shelter in a place, but was met with resistance from the villagers simply because his destination was Jerusalem, the result of Samaritan Jewish intolerance. When the disciples James and John saw this, they asked, "Lord, do you want us to call down fire from heaven to destroy them?" Jesus rebuked the brothers, and they all went to another village. The reaction of James and John to the Samaritans reveals a jealousy, impulsiveness, and anger that can rightly be described as thunderous. We can be sure that James and John lived up to their title on other occasions as well. This can be seen in Luke 9, verse 54. They were so close with Jesus Christ that their mother boldly asked Jesus for a favor. She said, "Grant that these two sons of mine may sit, one at your right hand and the other at your left, in your kingdom." However, Jesus replied, saying, "Ye know not what ye ask. Are ye able to drink of the cup that I shall drink of, and to be baptized with the baptism that I am baptized with?" They said unto him, "We are able." But what Jesus said after changed the course of their lives forever, making them suffer immensely for the gospel. Jesus prophesied, saying, "Ye shall drink indeed of my cup, and be baptized with the baptism that I am baptized with." Although the other disciples were angry with both of them, they didn't get the answer they wanted. This is a reminder to us that following Jesus is not about glory, but about sacrifice. This can be seen in Matthew 20, verse 21 to 24. And true to Jesus' prophecy, John in particular lived those words. True to the prophecy of Jesus Christ, James, the brother of John, was the first apostle to be killed. James was beheaded by order of King Herod Agrippa, the first of Judea. Although James was killed, it didn't stop the other apostles from preaching the gospel, which led them all to their deaths. But we are going to focus on John as he is the only one who was not killed like the rest. On the other hand, the story is told that the Roman Emperor Domitian ordered the apostle John to boil in oil until he died. But John continued to preach from inside the pot. On another occasion, John was forced to drink poison, but as promised in Mark 16, verse 18, it did him no harm. So John, the then head of the church at Ephesus, was banished to Patmos in AD 97. John's survival wasn't by chance. He had a divine purpose. Without him, we wouldn't have two monumental books of the Bible. First, the Gospel of John. The Gospel of John was independent, barely relying on the sources of the other three Gospels. Unlike the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, and Luke, John's Gospel focuses on who Jesus is. It starts with these powerful words. In John 1 verse 1 it says, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God." John emphasizes Jesus' divinity, categorically stating that Jesus was from before the beginning. He highlights miracles like turning water into wine, as seen in John 2, verse 1 to 11, and the most quoted verse in the Bible, John 3, verse 16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. On the other hand, there's the all-important book of Revelation. When John survived being boiled in oil, the Roman authorities exiled him to Patmos. But when John was in a cave on the island of Patmos, he received a vision. This vision became the book of the Apocalypse, the book that was to serve as the engine for evangelism in the age of the church. In it, the events surrounding the return of Christ were predicted. John wrote about the second coming of Christ and welcomed it. Even today, his writings inspire believers to anticipate the glorious return of Christ. The book of Revelation is the last book of the Bible, full of vivid images and prophetic visions that reveal God's ultimate plan for mankind. But because of its complex symbolism and apocalyptic themes, it is often misunderstood. Many readers focus exclusively on the apocalyptic judgments in form of plagues, beasts, and the mark of the beast that instill fear and confusion. But Revelation is not a book meant to make us fear, but a message of hope and triumph. It reveals the victory of Jesus Christ over evil and the establishment of God's eternal kingdom. In essence, Revelation gives believers the reassurance that God is in control and will ensure justice and restoration despite the current conflicts. On the other hand, this promise of victory does not ignore the reality of trials. The letters to the 7 churches in chapters 2 and 3 highlight the challenges believers face and urge them to remain faithful in the face of persecution and compromise. Although the book's visions may seem overwhelming, they have a broader purpose, which is to remind us that Jesus will return, that evil will be defeated, and that God will dwell with his people forever, as seen in Revelation 21, verse 3 to 4. In the end, Revelation is not a story of fear. It is a call to faith and a reminder of the importance of faith. Through Revelation, John gave us hope for a new heaven and a new earth, where God will wipe away every tear, as seen in Revelation 21, verse 1 to 4. Without John, we wouldn't have this glimpse into eternity. Although the attempted method of execution of the Apostle John was not mentioned in the Bible, the idea that John the Apostle was boiled in oil comes from the writings of Tertullian and Jerome, but not from the Bible. More on these men in our subsequent videos. John's life isn't just a historical account, it's a blueprint for us today. Although John is not in the world anymore, his writings constantly remind us to focus on Jesus. In John 20, verse 31, he writes, "These are written that you may believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God." No matter what John faced, his mission was clear. All he wanted to do was to point people to Christ. John endured exile and attempted execution, yet he remained faithful. His survival shows us that God has a purpose, even in our suffering. As Revelation 2:10 says, "Be faithful until death, and I will give you the crown of life." This teaches us of perseverance amidst trials. His life is a blueprint for everyone who must live holy in these last days. There is no doubt that Christians are being persecuted, but we must look unto Jesus, who is the author and finisher of our faith. Furthermore, John's closeness to Jesus reminds us of the importance of a personal relationship with God. He leaned on Jesus at the Last Supper, and he also leaned on Jesus by faith when he was going through his trials and temptations. This teaches us to have an intimacy with Christ. We can build this by studying his words and praying always. John's life is a story of transformation, perseverance, and purpose. He started as a hot-headed son of thunder and became the apostle of love. He faced trials, yet he held on to his faith. He lived to give us the Gospel of John and Revelation, 2 books that point us to the truth of who Jesus is and the hope we have in him. John's story challenges us to focus on what matters most, to persevere, and to deepen our relationship with Christ. So let me ask you, how does John's life inspire you? Do well to like this video and share it to someone to get inspired. Also subscribe to this channel to get more stories that will encourage you to know you're not alone in whatever you may be going through. Let's get to know Jesus together. Thank you and see you in the next one.